Rizal says, when I went with a group of my classmates, I received from the many jeers and nicknames they call me, Calambeño, and when one of them went alone with me, he showed himself such a good friend that I forgot the wrongs he had done me. Same were good and treated me well, like Marcus Rizal, the son of a cousin of mine, and others. Beside the home of my teacher, who was called Justiniano Aquino Cruz, was the house of his father-in-law in a certain Juancho, an old painter who beguiled me with his drawings. I had such a fancy for this art that a classmate of mine, Jose Guevara, and I were the favorite painters of the class. One day we had gone to the river, which was only a few steps away from the house of my aunt, for it ran along the garden, and while we were bathing at on a stone landing, for I did not dare to go down into the water because it was too deep for me. This spoiled brat Leandro and pushed me in so that I would have drowned. The current was already pulling me away, had not someone caught me by the feet. Sometimes we played at night in the street because they would not let us do so in the house. Arcadia, who must have been 2 or 3 years older than I, taught me the games. She treated me like a brother, only she called me Uncle Jose. By the light of the moon, I remembered my native town, Calamba, and I thought with tears in my eyes of my beloved father, my idolized mother, and my solicitous sisters. How sweet to me was Calamba, my own town, even it was not so rich as Binyan. Well, I heard the 4 o'clock mass, if there was one, or I studied my lessons at the same hour and heard mass afterward. After returning, I looked for a bowl of fruit in the grave and I ate it. Afterward, I took my breakfast, which consisted usually of a plate of boiled rice, 2 dried sardines. Then I went to class, which was over at 10. I won't I went home immediately. If there was a particularly appetizing dish, Leandro and I would be told to take it to the house of my aunt's sons, a thing which I never did at home, would never have done. I returned without saying a word, ate with them, and then applied myself to my studies. I went back to school at home at 2 and was out by 5. I played for a while with some good cousins before going home. After talking, After taking my supper of 1 or 2 plates of boiled rice and ayungin and an ayungin, we said our prayers then, and if there was a moon, my friends would call me out to play in the street in the company of others. Thanks to God, I never felt sick when away from my parents. One day, I received a letter from my sister Saturnina informing me of the arrival of steamship Talon, which was due to take me away in a certain day. It seems that I had a premonition that I would not be back, and so I went often and thoughtfully to the chapel of Nuestra Señora de la Paz at Buen Viaje. I left Binyan on the 17th of December 1871. I was 9 years old. It was a Saturday at 1 in the afternoon. Well, this is where the memories of the hero, Jose Rizal. He wrote another one, Memories de un Estudiante de Manila. My father was born in Binyan, a town distant from mine, an hour and a half, and it was there he sent me to continue to studying the rudiments of Latin, which I had started to learn. We reached Binyan and proceeded to the house of an aunt of mine with whom I was to board. The moon was starting to show itself, and in the company of her grandson Leandro, I went around the town, which seemed to me large and rich, but ugly and dismal. My brother Pasiano introduced me to the man who was to be my teacher, Joseniano Aquino Cruz, the same man, I believe, who had also been his. Joseniano Aquino Cruz, was a tall, thin, long-necked man with a sharp nose, with body bent slightly forward. He usually wore a sinamay shirt woven by the skillful hands of Batangueños. He knew my heart, the Spanish grammars, Bonevuja and Gainza. Do you know Spanish? A little, sir. I answered. Do you know Latin? A little, sir. Again, I replied. Because of these answers, the teacher's son, Pedro, the naughtiest boy in the class, began to make fun of me. Pedro, must have been older than I, and he had the advantage of me in height. But when we started to wrestle, I liked him. Twisting him back, I do not know by what fortunate chance, over some benches in the classroom, I let him go, leaving him considerably mortified. After a class of a youngster, Andres Kalundanan challenged me to a wrestling match. He put up an arm. I lost and nearly cracked my hand against the sidewalk of a house. I have no desire to spend my time counting the beatings I receive, a picturing of my emotions when I suffered first cannings. Some envied me and others pitied me. Tales were told against me, sometimes with reason and sometimes without, and always it cost me 3 or 6 lashes. I usually won the classroom contest. Nobody beat me, and as a result, I surpassed many class standing. But in spite of the reputation I had of being a good boy, the day was unusual when I was not laid out on a bench and given 5 or 6 blows. Well, this is the history of Rizal when he was in the elementary up until 9 years old. Hi, this is Gabby.